Hey everyone, welcome to the latest installment of Phoenix Children's Live. I'm your host today, Brand Manager Peter Ballestori with the Phoenix Children's Medical Group. Today I have the founder of the Phoenix Children's Hospital and Allergy and Immunology Clinic, Dr. Cindy Salmbauer, and with me all as well as Dr. Natalie Kack. Thank you guys for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So before we start, as we always say, throw us a like or a love. Let us know you're out there in the audience. We'll try to answer questions during the actual installment today, but if we can't, we'll get to you afterwards. But please do send us questions. We love to answer all those kinds of questions that come in. But we'll start off with probably the bigger kind of roundabout question is, tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then also anything you can tell us about the actual Allergy and Immunology Clinic here at Phoenix Children's Hospital. I know those are big questions, but we'll start off with those right away.
So the Phoenix Children's Hospital Allergy and Immunology Clinic opened about 4 years ago and was in response to a huge need for such a clinic due to the increasing amount of allergies, not only food allergy, but asthma, the seasonal allergies, eczema. And we've grown ever since in response to that need and are hoping to expand. We currently, due to Dr. Kack joining us a few months ago, are now in the East Valley, and we hope to keep going to more and more satellites.
That's awesome. What about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Kack.
So I'm really pleased to have joined Phoenix Children's Hospital Allergy Immunology Clinic. I started this past summer, and before that I was at Kaiser Permanente in Southern California for 6 years after training. And so far my family and I, we've loved being out here in Phoenix.
All right, you traveled east a little bit, so welcome. Thank you for being with us today. So we want Halloween to be scary for the right reasons. Ghosts, goblins, ghouls, all those kinds of good things, not about allergies and asthma. So that's what we're going to discuss today. So we just want to kind of set the record straight in terms of food allergies around Halloween. We can kind of get into some other things too, but I think the first question I wanted to ask and for our audience out there is really, how common are food allergies today, right now, in the world that we're living in?
It's scary how common allergic conditions are. Food allergy, particularly in children, is estimated to be about 6 to 8%. Wow. So in nearly every classroom, there's going to be at least one child with a food allergy. Other allergic conditions have also increased in the recent years, including asthma and seasonal allergies.
Okay. So I guess when we talk about the holiday coming up, we're on the 25th today, so it's coming right up. When we talk about Halloween candy, what are kind of the most common allergies associated with Halloween candy that parents and our kids should be concerned about?
Sure. So there's some common things that people associate the peanuts or the nuts in certain candy bars or fun-sized treats, but then there's also the milk and the eggs too that can be in these candies.
So I heard this when I was kind of putting the questions together today. So you mentioned the fun sizes, and that kind of just triggered me. I did not know this, but they sometimes will change the ingredients in the fun sizes, the small pack sizes, as opposed to the normal size ones. I did not know that. Is that kind of is that a recent thing, or
labeling?
What do you know about that?
There's no rules to labeling and ingredients, and so with food allergy, I usually encourage parents, as tedious as it is, even if it's your child's favorite food, that every time you buy that product, just check the label, because they can change their ingredients at any time. Yeah. And you don't want to give a product that was previously safe but unbeknown to you now is different and have your child react. So I think it leads to the heightened fear with food, because there's just so many ways to have accidents happen.
Yeah, definitely. So in the terrible event that a child may have an allergic reaction, what are kind of the most what are the typical signs, I should say, of an allergic reaction?
So there's a variety. Usually if it's a true allergic reaction, you may see more than one body part involved. So yes, you might see hives or rashes with itching, but you also might see abdominal cramps or nausea, vomiting, so GI upset symptoms. Other children, it's also feeling a lump in their throat or sore throat, fullness of their throat, itchy throat. Some of their children, dizziness, feeling lightheaded. So it can be a variety, a mishmash.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just be aware of all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So in some cases, a single bite of a type of food can really lead to some dire consequences. And as again, I was preparing the questions, and we get into anaphylaxis, and maybe we can talk a little bit about how dire that situation is for certain kids and certain families. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so anaphylaxis is a potentially fatal condition if not treated. Fortunately, all children with known food allergies should have readily available epinephrine autoinjector 2-packs in the event that happens. Anaphylaxis is a feared complication of ingestion. It's important to note that rarely, if you touch the food or smell the food, will that happen. You might have hives if you touch food. You could have sneezing and runny nose if you smell fish cooking.
Yeah.
But we don't usually see anaphylaxis. It's usually when it's been in the mouth. But it's even been in the mouth and spit out, and anaphylaxis occurred. It just depends on how much can be absorbed systemically into the child's circulation. And it's rapid. Usually allergic reactions to food allergy are within minutes to for sure within the hour of the exposure that we would see. And usually we see the skin first. So 90% of reactions do have some skin manifestation. So you'll see either the itching, the swelling, the hives, the flushing, but something on the outside, in addition then to sometimes those more internal manifestations as well.
Before we went on, why I love this job is I heard about a talking EpiPen, right? So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that, because this is something I had never even heard about. So I think families that are taking their kids out, I think one of the things, and we'll get into this kind of the top tips of what families should do when they have kids that have food allergies. And I'm sure that is bring along your kind of your trick bag, if you will, to help with a certain situation. But one of those things would be having the EpiPen. But you said something about a talking EpiPen, so I just want to throw that out there really quick. What is that?
Yeah, so the EpiPen is a brand that's been around for a really long time, coming in 2 strength. More recently, Kaleo has reintroduced their talking EpiPen called AuviQ, and that also comes in 2 strengths. This epinephrine autoinjector is the exact same medicine. It's just the device is different. And it does have this feature that talks you through how to use it. So to take the cap off, hold it to the child's thigh. It helps you count to make sure that all the medicine is administered.
Wow.
So many families have been interested in that pen, and the company has been really wonderful as well. I just recently learned that Kaleo is working with other food allergy organizations in an anti-bullying campaign due to the unfortunately very common issue of children with food allergies being bullied, not only by peers, but also even reportedly coaches, teachers, other children's parents, and that's just not acceptable.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. I think one of the things that has gotten a lot of play over the past years, at least that I can remember, is kind of the nut. Dr. Kack, you mentioned the nut allergies, right? That's the one that always people think about when you talk about food allergies.
Right.
So I looked, and over the past 10 years, that has doubled. I think the prevalence of the nut allergies. Like you said, there's probably one child in every class that probably has something like this. But why is that? I know that's going to be the $64,000 question, right? Because, all right, when I was going to school, not one kid had a nut allergy, right? And I'm not going to say how old I am, but it was a while back. And I just don't remember that. So is it a combination of things? Are they manufacturing food differently? Are we just cleaner people and we can't deal with that? Or is it a combination? Or what's kind of the running thought on that? I know, tough questions, right? Yeah.
I think it's multifactorial. It's a multitude of things. One of them is, yes, it's more well known that people can have these severe food allergies, and so people are more looking into diagnosing their patients or their children with it. The second thing is also how the food is prepared, let's say here in North America or the United States versus other parts of the world. So for instance, peanuts here tends to be roasted, whereas in the Middle East it tends to be more boiled, and by roasting it, it does increase the allergic potential of the nuts. The other thing, which recent study has pointed out, is our practice of recommending avoidance of peanuts and potentially other highly allergenic foods like cow's milk or egg. That study focused on peanuts, and it has shown that maybe that is playing a role in the increased prevalence of peanut allergy here in the United States, whereas in the Middle East or other parts of the world, culturally, nuts are introduced early on, depending on their cultural preferences.
Yeah.
And that study was game-changing for our community and actually led to an addendum for our food allergy kind of guidelines, really encouraging that early introduction in children. And even those at high risk for food allergy, it was recommended to see an allergist in infancy to determine if your child still may be a candidate for early introduction, perhaps in the allergy clinic, so it's done safely to that child, or hopefully not, but in some cases, complete avoidance and never exposure. But yeah, the guidelines say there really is no reason to be delaying the introduction of highly allergenic foods. In most children, and those certainly at high risk should seek care from an allergist and not just wait until they're 5 or at an older age and then finally do it, because there potentially is some sort of a window of tolerance that we're missing.
Is it are allergies, I should say, are they hereditary? Do we know that? Is it something like you have a higher precursor to be allergic to certain things, or is this just something that develops? And kind of what's the background on how a child develops allergies?
I think atopic or allergic conditions in general are a combination of the genetic predisposition as well as the environment. And so you put that together and you will potentially have an increased risk for atypy. You may have a parent with asthma and seasonal allergy, but the child has asthma and food allergy. So again, there's a hodgepodge of allergic conditions, and there's no black and white transmission. And what if the parent has, say, oral allergy syndrome, which is like typically like a fresh fruit and vegetable allergy where you get itchy, tingly mouth, say with melon. But the child, yes, that's common. But the child has peanut allergy. So again, there's not a direct correlation between one and the other. But at the same time, if you do have a parent with, say, a fish allergy, it actually is hard for that family to introduce fish at times for the children.
Because they're allergic.
Because the dad can't have fish, so they don't keep fish in the house. So yes, it's complicated.
So it kind of perpetuates itself in that way. What for all the kids that you guys see here, what are there kind of more common allergies that you guys treat, or kind of what is the division of allergies, if you will, that you guys see? Or is it an array of different ones?
Really big variety. I mean, the nose allergies, the sinuses, asthma, eczema. For food allergies, we see anything from the true food allergies that are like the anaphylaxis to the cow's milk or the eggs or the nuts, the soy, the wheat. But then we also see the ones that are kind of a mix of food allergy, but also cellular or cell inflammation like eosinophilic esophagitis. And then on the other spectrum, something where it's primarily cellular inflammation, like something called FPIES, which is food protein induced enterocolitis syndrome. So it's a big variety.
So okay, well, let's get back to Halloween a little bit. I mentioned that there's probably some tips that we can talk about to make the Halloween a little bit safer for kids that are have food allergies, and we'll get into some. I know that there's other allergies as well that are associated with Halloween. We'll get into those in a little bit, but I think the bulk of them I want to talk about are food allergies, and I think there's probably some tips on what parents can do for this Halloween coming up with a child that has food allergies. What are some of the top tips that you could give to parents to make this Halloween a bit safer?
As with anything, advance planning. So as a parent, you want to make sure that you have your epinephrine auto-injector prior to deciding to go out to trick-or-treat, if you do decide to go out to trick-or-treat. But you may have a family discussion where you decide that you're going to stay in this year and just administer treats to the kids that come to the home. That takes away the complexity of your potentially food allergic child getting at something that they shouldn't have, or having a party in your home instead. I think speaking to neighbors and family members that you're likely to go to for Halloween, assuming you do trick or treat with your child, can help as well. You can either drop off an item in advance or just remind them gently of your child's food allergy, and request that they find an item that is suitable for them. Maybe mentioning to them, he really likes this treat, so that it's safe.
So to dovetail with what Dr. Bauer said, yes, I agree there's other options besides trick-or-treating. There can be pumpkin carving, there can be costume contests, and being prepared.
Let's preparedness is obviously huge, but and then another thing in preparing for this today, which I'm learning so many things, so great, thank you so much. But I didn't really know about can we talk about the teal pumpkin?
Yeah.
I didn't know about this, so none of my kids have food allergies, so this is kind of this new world where I'm kind of learning about all this stuff. So this is great. What do we know about the teal pumpkin, and is this new, or?
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Okay.
FAIR, the Food Allergy Research and Education Organization, sought to increase awareness of food allergies. By painting a pumpkin teal, you're pointing out that home is basically food allergy friendly. It doesn't mean they're not serving candy. It might mean, though, that they're serving a combination of stickers and trinkets with some candy, or maybe the candy is food allergy friendly. So they're serving non-peanut, non-dairy Swedish fish.
Oh, wait, I have something for you. Look at this. Oh, see what we did here? It's teal. So you mentioned some of those ones. What we got?
Yes.
We have, look here.
Swedish fish.
And we have, the other ones that I saw were Skittles. So this is good. And my personal favorite, Sour Patch Kids.
Okay.
Gotta love those. And then even another one, Starburst too. So those are all good stuff. So yeah, so companies are starting to get on board with this, I think, a little bit more too. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, I think that especially the wheat allergy with the amount of gluten-free products out there has really skyrocketed. And made it easier. So some people may have true wheat allergy, some people may have eosinophilic esophagitis where they have to avoid wheat, and then of course those that have celiac disease have to avoid wheat, as well as barley and rye and all foods containing gluten. But because of, you can see where there's going to be a fair number of people avoiding wheat for one reason or another, gluten-free products are on the rise for sure. And then certainly as long as you don't mind sugary candy, there are options out there for your child.
And this is just some of them right here.
Right. But again, the other end of options is non-food.
Yeah.
And kids love stickers, pencils, and other little toys as well.
I think we forget about that too, because candy is the kind of the main focus of Halloween. So, but yeah, I mean, I think this is a great opportunity, and it was hard to find non-allergenic or non-allergy foods before. Now it's becoming even more mainstay, which is a great thing for kids out there and for families as well. So the other part of Halloween obviously is the dress up, right? And there's makeup involved, and there's latex and all those kinds of things. So can kids have allergic reactions to makeup?
Yeah, so certainly it would be a different type of an allergy than we've been discussing. But there are allergic contact dermatitises that one can have to various ingredients in all sorts of things, from nickel, cobalt, hair dyes, obviously makeup products. And so I think in children, with known issues with certain chemicals, it would probably be good to be cautious with putting makeup on. In addition, children with eczema obviously have extremely sensitive skin, and also in those children, it would be good to be cautious about what you put on their skin and what kind of chemicals. You don't want anything like irritating to the skin, whether it be wool or anything that's going to cause itchies.
Yeah, and that was my next question too. Is I think looking at, and back to your both of you said preparedness, is what kinds of things, actual physical costumes should they be aware of, and should they look at? You mentioned kind of the itchy kinds of things. Are there any other things that parents or kids should be kind of aware of in terms of not putting on something that they're going to be allergic to?
Yeah.
So as Dr. Bauer mentioned, there are some types of fabrics that are more irritating to children with eczema, such as wool. Other children, the fasteners or the metal sometimes can irritate their skin. Other children, it's the elasticity of the costume, so the latex component can also sometimes be irritating for kids with extra sensitive skin or eczema.
In terms of the children that you see, do you get kids from even out of the state of Arizona to come here?
Yes, we do, particularly I think for our multidisciplinary clinics. So we have a severe eczema clinic, a severe asthma clinic, an eosinophilic gastrointestinal disease clinic, which we often call the EOE clinic, and our immunohematology clinic, so for children with primary immune deficiencies. And not only in the multidisciplinary clinics, but also in our general clinic too. And it's amazing what we can do in this era with working with their local doctors to still provide them care, because obviously they can't come all the time to the children's hospital if it's a 6-8 hour drive. But we can certainly provide the care because in many of these cases they don't have pediatric allergy immunology care.
Yeah, well, that was the other question too. Is so how do kids get to you? Is it usually a referral from a PCP or a primary care physician or a pediatrician, or how does the child actually get over to you guys to those and gets referred to those clinics?
Well, for the general clinic, it can come from any pool. Sometimes it's the parent who just has allergies and sees it in their child and wants to address it earlier rather than later, especially with seasonal allergies. Sometimes it's the ER because of an asthma attack or a reaction to food, and they say you need to see the allergist and have testing and workup and treatment. And other times it's from other providers, so from GI or from pulmonary or ENT. For the multidisciplinary clinics, usually it's from the provider. So they're being seen in dermatology and allergy, but they want that coordinated care because it's not going as well as they'd like. Or they're seeing GI and allergy, but they want more coordinated care because, again, it's challenging.
I think one of the interesting parts of allergies is asthma. I want to bring that up too, because as kids are very active and they want to play sports, what is kind of the outlook for a child that has asthma, and how can that, if they're definitely active and they want to play sports, is there kind of a way that you guys deal with that? I mean, because I don't know that asthma ever goes away, does it? Is it kind of once it's there, or what's the background on that?
So there are some children that outgrow their asthma, and then they just have childhood asthma. And some other children, they have just exercise-induced asthma. So there's a spectrum of asthma. In terms of how we manage and treat the asthma, our take on it is that if asthma is well controlled, it shouldn't be limiting your activities or causing you to live within a bubble. There's a lot of good controller medications out there that are available now, and if we find the right combination for you and then treat potentially other factors that might be contributing to the asthma control, they should be able to do everything that they'd like to do.
That's great. And one of the newer ones is the EOE clinic, and I'm terrible. I'm not even going to be able to say it. So you need to say it slowly so that I can even hear it again. But which one is that again? And let's talk.
The eosinophilic esophagitis.
Oh my gosh. Spell that, and you get extra credit. So no. Let's talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. So eosinophilic esophagitis and other eosinophilic gastrointestinal diseases are basically due to the presence of the eosinophil in our GI tract, where it ideally shouldn't be, and particularly shouldn't be in high numbers. And when it's there, particularly in the esophagus or the food tube, it causes damage. And so children can present with chronic vomiting, failure to thrive, feeding refusal, difficulty swallowing when they're older, or choking on food, food getting stuck in their food tube. And so in the EOE clinic, it's nice in the sense that you have your gastroenterologist and your allergist immunologist, as well as the dietitian, all present, so that when we come up with treatment, particularly should the treatment include dietary elimination, which is one of the effective ways of treating eosinophilic esophagitis, you know that you're getting a agreed upon plan that all your caregivers know about.
Yeah.
And it takes away some of that difficulty, and again, like I said, going to different specialties, and sometimes that feeling of not everyone is on the same page.
That's important.
Yeah.
And you know, I think, how do you guys work with other areas? Like, you know, do you guys get involved with GERD with children, or no? And then also, do you work with maybe with Barrow Neurological Institute on maybe ketogenic diets at all? So how does that work? How do you guys work with them?
As far as reflux or GERD, a lot of children do have it, and we have to make sure that it's controlled, because the presence of reflux can lead potentially to the misdiagnosis of eosinophilic esophagitis. So for diagnostic purposes, we often treat for reflux before making that diagnosis of EOE. And then once children have eosinophilic esophagitis, again, these are very nonspecific symptoms like chronic abdominal pain, and so before you assume it's their eosinophilic esophagitis 2 years into their treatment, again, you have to make sure they're not constipated, it's not coming from reflux or other
Take
causes.
all the variables out of it,
and so you can see where the multidisciplinary nature comes in, because it all ends up overlapping.
Yeah.
As far as ketogenic and other diets, not as much.
Okay.
We don't stumble into that.
Okay.
From time to time, though, if in unique circumstances, I certainly have seen patients, though.
Well, and the best part is that it's all on the same campus here, and you guys work together with all these different, 75 plus multidisciplinary specialties here. It's pretty amazing here. So that's all the time we have questions for. You guys did wonderful. Thank you again for being here. The next Phoenix Live session is actually coming up. It's with the return of the Recipe Club. They are going to make, listen to this, they're going to make tuna and cannellini bean salad. Is there any, there's no allergies with that, right?
Sure.
There might be, right? the tuna, right?
Fish, yes.
So tune in next it's Thursday, October 27th, and it'll be 11:30. Thanks again for both of you being here today, and let's get into this candy if we can.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Take it easy.